Welcome back to our Speak with Confidence series. This is Roberto Monaco with InfluenceOlogy. In this video series, you are going to discover how to speak with amazing, unstoppable, unshakable confidence in front of one person, 10 people, 1,000 people. Really, it doesn't matter the size of the audience. Now, just in case you have missed the first videos in this series, I have included a link for you in the end of this video. Now today, you and I will be discussing the fear of rejection. Now, you're saying, Roberto, I have no fear of rejection. Thank you. Now, before you say that, let me tell you that in my experience, I see two types, quote unquote, of fear of rejection. One of them is that when people are very aware of the fear of rejection, they go, Roberto, I don't want to go there because I'm afraid of being rejected. Some people say, Roberto, I have no fear of rejection, but they don't know that fear of rejection is causing them to adopt limiting behaviors, which was my case, and I will share with you today in this video. Now, a long time ago, 11 years ago, when I started my career as a professional speaker, my job was to do talks and sell seminar. I was selling tickets for events. And I remember one of my first meetings that I did was for a real estate office in Newport Beach, California. I remember going to this meeting, maybe, I don't know, 45 agents, and I spoke for 45 minutes, and I passed these forms for people to register to this event, and nobody registered. And I got these forms, I'm like, looking at people look at me, I'm like, that's weird. You know that feeling when you're rejected, you're kind of like frustrated, you don't understand, you're angry. I mean, there's all these emotions like disappointment, and I'm like, dude, this is not fun. Now, and that happens a couple more times, and eventually, because I was doing around 400 presentations a year, I overcame that quote-unquote fear of rejection. Consciously, I say, if you would ask me, 11 years ago, Roberto, you experienced fear of rejection? I said, no problem, because I was doing all these talks. But unconsciously, I learned later on that these fears, specifically fear of rejection, was causing me to adopt some limiting behaviors in my career as an influencer presenter. Specifically, I adopted 3 behaviors. Number 1, I start slowly lowering my expectations. Why? Because if you expect, for example, there's 100 people in the room, you want to say enroll 100 people, that's like hard to do, right? Every single time. So instead of being rejected, I go, well, it's not like everybody's going to sign up for this thing anyway. So I actually start lowering my expectations. Why? Because I don't want to be rejected unconsciously. The second thing, or the second limiting behavior that I adopted unconsciously, I didn't prepare as much. I wasn't working on myself as hard as I should have been working on myself. Why? Because unconsciously, what if I spend all this time training and rehearsing and trying to improve if I go there and get rejected? Waste my time. And the third thing that happened to me is that when I was in front of people, I was doing like maybe 90%, maybe 95%, not 100%. Why? Because if you're like fully 100% emotionally committed to your clients, the presentation, and they say no, hurts, right? The contrast is harder, so it's bigger. So that, therefore, I was like, well, maybe unconsciously, obviously, I wasn't thinking about this stuff, but I wasn't giving 100%. And because now, imagine this, now I'm going to these talks, I lower my expectation, number 1. Number 2, I wasn't preparing as I should have been preparing. I wasn't working on myself. Number 3, I wasn't giving 100%, maybe 90%, maybe 95%. Not 100% what happens. My results decline. Now I'm being even more rejected. Get it? So unconsciously, I adopt these behaviors to quote-unquote protect myself, but end up costing even more because now more people are saying no to me. It made no sense. Now I start comparing my results with other people, and I'm like, man, there's people doing the same thing I'm doing, they're better. And obviously, some people are rejecting them, but they don't feel rejected. And that was a huge breakthrough because I started studying fear of rejection, my fears. I start questioning, okay, what caused me to feel rejected? Right? Because what happens is that when you when I personally present an idea, a service, a product, it's two parts, right? One, people saying no to you, they are rejecting the offer, and the second part is I feel a certain way. Now, I cannot control what the client's gonna do, but I can control how I feel. So then I start asking this question: what has to happen for me to feel rejected? Because there is a rule or belief there. Let me ask you this: what has to happen for you to feel rejected? So then I start asking these questions like, well, when I feel rejected when people don't buy from me. Then I'm like, that's not true, because I done presentations, for example, where there were 10 people, I signed up 9 people. So super happy. Just because one person reject me, quote unquote, I wasn't feeling anything. I'm like, dude, I'm happy because 9 people said yes to me. So I said, no, that rule is not valid. So I asked myself, okay, what has to happen for me to feel rejected when I'm speaking? And then another rule, well, when people don't get my idea. It's like, well, that's not true too, because again, done presentations where half the room said, Roberto, we agree with your idea. Half the room said, we don't agree, and I was still happy. You see, I was creating these rules that unconsciously, they were making me feel rejected, even though I don't agree with them. So then I'm like, okay, this is really important. Breakthrough for me here. I hope it's a breakthrough for you today. Breakthrough. If I created these rules that unconsciously they're causing me to feel rejected, is it possible then to create rules so that when I present my offer, my product, my service, regardless of the outcome, I'll never feel rejected again? Because ultimately, let me ask you this: who controls your rules? Yourself. Who control my rules about being rejected? I do. So if I have these rules that I feel rejected when some people don't buy from me, can I have a different rule? The answer is what? Of course yes. So then I come up with this really crazy idea. I'm gonna come up with a rule that's gonna be virtually impossible to feel rejected. And here's my rule: I only feel rejected when 8 billion people at the same time say no to me. Then, only then, I will feel rejected. Alright? Now I know it's kind of crazy, but that's my rule. Hey, you create your own rule. I think about it. So now I speak, there's 40 people, let's say 10 people say yes and 30 say no. My rule is, hey, I only feel rejected, I feel disempowered when 8 billion people at the same time look at me and say, Roberto, no. Then, only then, I feel rejected. Well, only 30 people said no, therefore, I don't feel rejected right now. Think about that. Now, doesn't mean that I'm not going to learn from presentation. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to improve my closing ratio, for example. Obviously, we all should be striving to become better influencers, communicators, presenters all the time. But feeling, quote unquote, rejected, so that you start lowering your standards, start working yourself less, and not giving 100%, that's not good. Right? So I had this belief change, this rule change, and that rule changed my career forever. So how about you? What has to happen for you to feel rejected? What is your new rule that after watching this video you're gonna adopt, so that when you do presentations in front of one client, 10 people, 100 people, 1,000 people, you never ever feel rejected again? It's super powerful, because ultimately, guys, who control the rule? Who controls your own rule about what has to happen for you to feel rejected? Nobody but yourself. Okay, hope you enjoyed this video here, and I'll talk to you soon. By the way, if you want to learn more about how to use presentations, videos, webinars to conquer your marketplace, just go to www.influencing influencingfromthefront.com. Again, www.influencingfromthefront.com, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Wait! Hey, you! Yeah, you! Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Otherwise, I will bite you. By the way, I have no fear of public speaking. Subscribe.